I'm your host, Peter Komendowski, and welcome to Surviving Bad, where we explore stories of survival, hope, and inspiration. Today, we explore the changing landscape of education in America. What's been looked at as a battle between public and private education reveals that the need for change and innovation that puts children first is very important. Trends say that need is urgent. Now, we're joined by Eric Howard, the head of the Odyssey School in Asheville, North Carolina, and Natalie Silva. Eric has a stellar career in social work, education, and public policy, including a stint as director of problem-solving courts in Iowa, which is how we originally met. He's a man of passion and vision, and Natalie works with him to change education. So let's meet Eric and find out why we're here today. Eric, tell us about yourself.
Thank you so much, Mr. Komendowski. It's a pleasure to be with you here again. And I desperately miss Des Moines, Iowa. It was fun. I had a great time while I was there for 2 years working for the Iowa Judicial Branch. It was just such tremendous experience and just meeting the people of Iowa. And I have so many friends there now. So, don't be surprised if you see me fly in and just kind of hang out in the Des Moines downtown area. So there I was the statewide problem-solving court coordinator, but my background has always been school support and family systems and building treatment courts and working in public education. So the majority of my career is between problem-solving courts and public education as a school social worker. And so once I finished out there in Iowa, got back here to North Carolina, I applied to this very small private school. This is my first year actually in private independent school. So it's been another adventure. And so I was welcomed in by the families here of Odyssey, and I'm grateful for them to be their next leader. And I look forward to building this school. Adding more capacity. And as we'll go through our conversation of why I think, private independent schools are a great pathway. And with that, I'm going to introduce the director of academic programs, Miss Natalie Silva, who's actually one of the first people that I hired in my first year. And I'm excited to have her. And just a brilliant mind and super techie and super smart. So with that, Natalie.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Howard. Just echoing, so happy to be here. So thank you for having us. My name is Natalie Silva. As Dr. Howard said, I'm the director of academic programs here at wonderful Odyssey School. This is also my first private school experience. Historically, I grew up in public schools in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Found myself in Brooklyn, New York for many years working in the charter school landscape. So I've kind of had a foot everywhere. Ended up in Asheville, North Carolina, getting back closer to home. And so it's been really fun to stand by Dr. Howard. We have a lot on our plate, really exciting future for our school. So it's wonderful to be here today, and I'm excited to talk.
Yeah, we've got this interesting thing happening in Iowa that became a bit politically divisive, is that as the opportunities for voucher systems and private school funding came about, it became very polarized, and it still is at this point in time, for all the reasons we all know. But it's not true system-wide that public schools are failing us. I mean, the Des Moines school system is very progressive and is doing a really great job. We've watched that evolve, but yet even they would probably admit there's a lot of pressure on schools, especially rural and other areas, and that can't adapt as fast as they can with the staff and the resources that they have. And what we've seen is the idea that, at least that's what's being discussed, that the idea that private school systems can evolve faster to meet the needs of this changing world, that the landscape of education has changed. And I've talked about this with groups, and I get some interesting feedback, because at one time, education was really the steward of community values, of their local community. But the world at large today is not the local community. Kids are global. Kids are everywhere. And the demands of teaching and schools is to really reach out and help them grow as people in ways that even their parents can't always do. So how do you look at it? I mean, you come from public schools, Natalie. How do you look at that challenge and say we can do this as well or better?
Yeah, I mean, it's a dynamic question, right? I mean, I agree with what you said of, public schools can definitely change quicker, just logistically on the back end to meet the needs of the current moment, right? That's the goal of educators, is to meet our kids exactly where they're at right now. So I totally agree with that. I think private schools enabled to do that more efficiently. But again, I had a great experience growing up in public schools. The county I grew up in is the largest county in our state. And so, as a student, I definitely saw the back end of sometimes it takes a while for, policies to change over. It takes a while for things to really hit the ground running where teachers know what they're doing, they can implement stuff and students see it. So it's mixed. Being in a private school now, it's been a joy to kind of see and feel like you can really respond in the moment to certain things. So yeah, it's interesting to be on this side of things. I would almost wish I could experience private school as a student too, at some point.
Well, I'd like to get back on this topic. We're going to take a short break, and Eric, I have a question ready and lurking for you when we get back. Stay tuned. You don't want to miss this.
The black truck? Hey, Christina from accounting.
Yeah, hi.
Hey, I used to date a girl named Christina.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then she dumped me for my best friend. You want to see some photos of them that I took?
I don't.
I thought we talked about this, buddy.
Buzzed and overshared again?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna call a car.
That's a smart idea.
So yeah, I know, that's why I did it.
Hey, you're gonna get back to the top of the mountain.
Does that mean I'm gonna get back with Christina?
No.
Oh.
No.
Every second, 127 new devices connect to the internet. You can feel it happening, our digital world expanding with every breath. We're entering a whole new era of connectivity, and MediaCom will be ready to power it with one of the nation's first 10G platforms. We'll be bringing you more speed, more capacity, more security, and the power to do more than you ever dreamed possible.
Welcome back to Surviving Dad. We're talking about education. And we talked about the fact that educators have been closely aligned with the needs of a community and values, but it's a new world where childhood education has to meet the challenge of rapidly evolving ideas, threats, and media that most parents have little working knowledge of. We're simply asking so much more of our educators today. It's possible that private school systems have a way of adapting in a compassionate way with the needs of our community to work with public educational systems, because they can't do it all, but at least maybe to stimulate some innovations. Eric, I know you've been on the leading edge of innovating ideas, social ideas for social justice. The court system work you did here in Iowa is great. How do you align that with what your mission is today in your role at the school?
Well, first, it's just like anything. I think people have to have a full understanding of it. And rule one for us here at Odyssey, we're not competing. We're collaborating. We try to find every opportunity to collaborate with not only other independent schools and our private partners. And we've done a lot of that this year in just working with different people trying to find creative ideas. And the other full understanding is if the lights go out or if we have a water leak or whatever, private schools, we have to pay for that. We're not getting state money for all the other parts of education that comes with public school. And so I think a lot of people see it as a threat financially. However, it's not. It could be in some capacities, but it's really not. We're not even, the reimbursement rate, even on the Opportunity Scholarship, most times doesn't even cover tuition. And so it will be a credit and it's a benefit, and we appreciate it for sure. I just want to say that that we have that opportunity, but people have to start looking at the whole picture. Now, there are some schools that, may be more kind of religious aligned that want specific things, but we're fortunate enough here at Odyssey to have more of a neutral stance, and we don't, we work with all beliefs and backgrounds and stuff. And so for the equity point, it really aligns perfectly with what I'm about, right? We're about, human beings, educating young people and bringing all systems, people, background and everything together here at Odyssey. So, I mean, for people to understand, we are that type of school that we are open for all people, and we don't really have a specific either religious agenda or anything like that. So that's how it aligns mostly with what I'm doing, because when I did my interview and I came in, I don't feel comfortable being a part of a situation that excludes. I came in and I saw an opportunity to do everything that I've always wanted to do in public education here. And it's mostly a guardrails thing. It really is. Like I can make, I can work with Natalie and say, hey, how can we figure out getting Gillingham tutoring? How can we've invested money in phonics, right? So we learned through COVID and that there was a lot of reading deficits among white, Black, Latino, all populations. So we found that our kids were really suffering because, the reading literacy programs that public schools adopted was not really effective. And so we could pivot this year, and we did. And so we've invested in the science of reading, phonics, and all of those things, and letters training for our teachers. We can be a little bit nimble, right? And we can support kids with reading deficits, and we can also do that with math and science. I mean, Natalie, and I'm going to give a lot of praise to Natalie because she's the future of this school and the team that we build around it. And as we evolve into more of an arts integrated education, we can really be flexible and add some of the things in that help kids move around in classrooms. So, my dissertation was African American parents' perceptions of public schools. So that was my doctoral study here in Asheville. And what we learned from that was, kids, African American students are kinesthetic learners. They learn by do. We need to get them moving. So here at Odyssey, they're already doing those things. They're already doing listening conferences where parents come in and they talk to us about how their kid learns the best. And so those are the subtle innovations that we can do that public schools can absolutely do those things. I think it's our duty as a private independent thing is just to show our public school colleagues is like, hey, this really works. We've done this for 3 to 5 years. This works. How can we work together? Because, at the end of the day, Peter, there's enough kids to educate for all of us, right? And again, that's why I don't believe in the whole competitive, we're taking money from you, we're doing this. I think if everybody just came to the table and had a good, firm discussion, especially if I was a public school leader right now, I'd be like, hey, are you guys trying this? And I would just see where we could fit that in to different public systems, right? They have a perfect opportunity to kind of collaborate or say, hey, we have this student that has this need. Can you help them? And I think it honestly, it helps us all. I mean, I think it helps us all. And the funding, again, it is beneficial. And does it take from their budgets? Absolutely. However, it's not enough to damage public education, right? It's not like they're giving, if they start giving out $20,000 per pupil things now, that I may have a different opinion, but they're not.
Well, we're going to take a short break, and I'd like to come back to that idea of making education a child first sort of experience in terms of structure. So I thank you so very much for this information. We look forward to seeing y'all after the break, and stay tuned. You don't want to miss this.
Multiple studies have shown that marijuana can slow both driver reaction and response time, which can be really dangerous. He's here. He's here. Wait. What? I can't drive. Why? I'm high. Oh.
Today, more than ever, you need fast, reliable internet. At MediaCom, we want you to know you can count on us. Our fiber-powered 100% gigabit technology network was built for the future. We have enormous capacity and power and 99.99% network reliability. So even though these are uncertain times, we're prepared. And you can be certain we'll keep your world connected.
Welcome back to Surviving Bad. We're here with Eric and Natalie, and we're talking about, sort of the battle between public and private education, but the compassionate relationship that they have and the understanding that there's a need for change and innovation that puts the child first. Eric, I like what you said about it. Natalie, what's it like for a child to transition from a public school to a school like yours? What do you see happening with these kids?
Yeah, I mean, I think Odyssey is such an interesting model that it definitely is such a shift, whether it's public to Odyssey, or we also recruit a lot of homeschooling to Odyssey. And so on both spectrums, you really do see a big shift. I think something unique about Odyssey and probably for most independent schools is, to your point, we do have to be child first. And, as I've come into this landscape of education, I've found that many systems, many public systems have this approach of what are some issues we're seeing in the community right now and how do we respond right now? When in reality, it's thinking to the future. When our current kids are in their 40s, in their 50s, and they're in our economy, and they're in our society, what skills do they need to have? What abilities do they need to have to succeed? And so it's interesting to, come into this space where technology is just so prevalent. So how do we be child-centric and teach kids to be kids and be authentic and to think for themselves and be problem solvers, while also balancing our kids need to be able to manipulate technology really well and safely. And so it's interesting to come to the space because, as a private school, we do have our hands moving freely with the ability to kind of shift this thinking, not to address certain problems, but to think proactively. So that's really exciting. And that's something I love about education. Truly, the reason why I'm here is because I find such passion in connecting with community. And education is that structure to do so.
Well, now, obviously all school systems went through a problem with COVID. And in many respects, it wasn't problematic for all people. I mean, introverts loved it to some extent, but kids had, they were immersed in technology, but not in teaching and educational methods. And so what we've seen is a huge sort of drop off where all of a sudden the kid went from 5th to 7th grade or 3rd to 5th grade. And as if that grade somehow naturally through osmosis happened for them while they were not going to school regularly.
Sure.
And so we know that put a lot of pressure on things. And I know, Eric, you had mentioned that you addressed some of the things like phonics and reading, which were some of the basic skills that were lost in that time. And now another thing is that that's not just, I mean, we have COVID to thank for maybe opening our eyes to some of these things, but when kids are in poverty or don't have access to food or have other mental health issues, or maybe just are minimalized in the social groups in say a public school, or even a private school, if that could happen in a religious-based school, they suffer the same kind of pressures and anxieties. How do you address that on a student-by-student basis?
So we have a wonderful director of student life, Ann Tomlanovich, and so I was school support for many years. So just like you, Peter, I just knew exactly what to do. So to Odyssey's credit, before I got here, they did a couple things really well. One, they did a hybrid type schooling, which meant that kids that were really sick could do the online option, but they basically bought 2 big military tents and kept school going. And so they did that. And so we were able to jump ahead and assess where kids were falling behind or struggling. And so working with Ann, what we do is we do what we call care plans. So we tailor each kid's experience, social, emotional, extra academic support. And again, that is the good thing about being an independent school, because we don't have to go through the bureaucratic structure. We can work with Ann. We push in a therapist once a week that sees the kids. So we, work with that. So we can make the referral on school, and we work with the parents to see. So we know the kids have access to therapy at least once a week. And any expanded group or support, we partner with the families to bring them in. And so we try to provide them space. For example, we've recently, unfortunately, had a sibling pass, and I could convert my office to a place where they can meet and support each other on campus. You don't see a lot of these, and it's not because public schools don't want to, and I don't want to send that message, but the issue is they're big bureaucratic institutions. And there's just basically some red tape you have to filter through, right? And so it makes it harder for them to do things like we can. But sometimes I think in the public sector, again, they can partner with us and they can say, wow, Eric did this over at Odyssey. How can we evolve our school and do the same thing? especially on the social emotional support. Man, you got school shootings, you got school violence now. I know here at our school we train extensively. We have people coming in. We meet once a week for at-risk situations that make kids really nervous and scared. But what we do is we try to say, for active shooter drills, we do block, exit, fire drills, right? And so if the active threat happens, we don't have to alarm the kids with a lockdown, but we teach kids to use different exits. And so that's part of the innovation of independent school, and we're really fortunate to have those opportunities to expand and work in that way.
Well, I really like your attitude about that, and I think there's a lot to learn from a sort of compassionate and giving and sharing way to deal with children. We're going to take a short break, and we're going to ask Eric and Natalie to share some comments, insights, and inspiration, and some final comments for you to better understand the benefits of both public and private schools coexisting. See you all after the break. You don't want to miss this.
Today, more than ever, you need fast, reliable internet. At MediaCom, we want you to know you can count on us. Our fiber-powered 100% gigabit technology network was built for the future. We have enormous capacity and power and 99.99% network reliability. So even though these are uncertain times, we're prepared. And you can be certain we'll keep your world connected.
Welcome back. Today on Surviving Bad, we've talked about the changing landscape of education in America. Let's see what insights and inspiration our guests, Eric Howard and Natalie Silva, have to share with us. Welcome back to the show. Natalie, let's start with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So going back to this like general landscape, a narrative we often hear being in private schools is that it's a them versus us or a us versus you. And, Dr. Howard and I feel so passionate that to fix, not fix, but to continue to develop the opportunities we're giving to all kids, we really do need to make it a collaborative motion. There is so much to benefit from public education, me being there myself. There's so much to benefit within charter schools. Love charter schools through and through. I think they do a lot of great things well. So I think as we continue to grow in this landscape and take on what the world's handing to us, more than ever, we need to collaborate and walk hand in hand and making sure that we are getting our kids not only what they need right now, but what they're going to need for the future. Dr. Howard and I have some exciting things up our sleeves to kind of name there. I'll throw it over to you.
Yeah. So, I mean, the important thing to me as well is just, first of all, we have about 30% kids below poverty or getting scholarships here at our school. That's an important thing to know, right? And so, again, if we can focus on collaboration instead of being competitive, I think is the important note and how we can coexist in certain ways, because all kids need a shot. When I walked through the doors here at Odyssey, I knew this was an opportunity for me to work with a lot of kids in public housing. Was a big opportunity for me to really focus on kids in the math and sciences. So one of the phenomena that happens between the whole private public dynamic is a lot, and what you see out in West Des Moines and you see out in the Iowa schools is a lot of the athletes are poached out of the public system, right? So they can provide scholarships. They're pulled out to go to some of the bigger private schools. And so we seek the same thing, is not in a negative way, but to say, hey, you may be a Black kid or a brown kid or a poor kid, but you're really invested in the arts and sciences. Like, we can then say, hey, here's an opportunity for you. that you can get that advanced science and arts education. And we are currently, building. My goal this year is to build a $300,000 equity fund so that we can provide scholarships for people. That's not coming from the state. That's coming from the citizens and people in the community to provide this expanded role. And then what I also propose, Peter, is to measure what we do, right? I'm asking UNCA and some other professors to measure our progress so we can share that information. So we can say, hey, here's what we did. Then public schools, they can also innovate in their systems and say, hey, this could be a magnet school that we can provide some of the same opportunities. And then maybe we can collaborate anywhere from like teacher observation. We can work together on that. We can work together on like providing like extra tutoring time. Maybe we can be open to certain days. Maybe another school could be open certain days. There's too many ways that we can collaborate and not focus so much on the $7,000 or $6,000 that the state's providing opportunity. And again, there are enough kids for us all to work together to educate. Education is the core fabric, the most transformational thing we can do for any of our communities. And we need to like come together, grow, and help all kids prosper, no matter what neighborhood, background, identity they come from. That is vitally important to me as a social worker, because I'm a social worker first. And, I love my community. And if I can share this knowledge with folks in Iowa, if I can share this knowledge with folks here in Asheville or Tennessee or wherever, that's worth its weight in gold. And I will go a happy man into the sunset, knowing that, we've collaborated to create the beauty of educating our community and again, becoming the best in the world at doing that.
Well, thank you so very much. We appreciate what you do. And I also appreciate the bond you're creating with parents and kids, which is really something important to make happen in our communities. And thank you all for watching today. Check out our website, ahealthyiowa.org. Keep your eye on Mediacom MC22 for our next episodes of Surviving Bad. And enjoy the stories we share of survival, hope, and inspiration on Mediacom MC22, your local programming leader.